Australian dealer forecourts in the current market are stacked with new tractors carrying price tags well past 100,000 Australian dollars, wrapped in electronics that require a factory subscription to diagnose and a dealer technician to unlock before a single bolt can be turned. Meanwhile, the people who know these machines most intimately, the independent mechanics who work on them in the field, in the shed, and on the workshop floor, are buying something completely different when it is their own money at stake. According to independent repair forums and farm tender community discussions, the model's mechanics themselves are most likely to buy when it is their own money on the line, share one characteristic above all others: mechanical simplicity that can be diagnosed with experience and repaired with tools already in the shed. 5 of those models are examined here, starting with the one that appears most frequently in the background of a working mechanic's own property. In 5th place, the Ford 6610 Series 10 is the machine that represents the transition point between purely pre-electronic agricultural machinery and the earliest generation of tractors that introduced electronically managed systems. And the mechanics who buy it have made a deliberate choice about which side of that transition they want to live on. The Ford 6610 Series 10, produced in the early to mid-1980s, is powered by a Ford 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated diesel, producing approximately 82 horsepower from a direct injection engine that predates the complexity of modern Tier 4 emission systems by 3 decades. The machine was assembled at Ford's Basildon plant in Essex, England, and sold in Australia through the Ford Tractor Dealer Network, before the brand's agricultural operations were acquired by Fiat in 1991. Current listing prices on farm tender sit between 9,000 and 17,000 Australian dollars for sound examples in working order, with higher specification 4-wheel drive configurations attracting the upper end of that range. Parts support runs through independent aftermarket suppliers, including SpareX AU and Bear Co. for engine and hydraulic components. And the Ford agricultural engine parts ecosystem is well enough established globally that sourcing is rarely a genuine obstacle for a workshop with basic supplier contacts. Fuel consumption under moderate load runs at approximately 6 to 7 liters per hour. 3-point linkage lift capacity is approximately 3,000 kilograms at the lower link ends, which opens the 6610 to loader, cultivation, and rear implement work beyond the capability of the smaller displacement machines earlier in this countdown. Known weak points that experienced independent mechanics identify for the 6610 Series 10 include the power steering cylinder end seals, which can develop weeping at around 2,000 to 2,500 hours, with a complete reseal costing approximately 210 Australian dollars through an independent workshop, and the injection pump, which benefits from overhaul at around 3,000 to 3,500 hours at a cost of approximately 480 Australian dollars through an independent injection specialist. Routine service every 250 hours. Oil, filter, fuel filter, and air filter costs approximately 130 to 150 Australian dollars through an independent workshop. The reason mechanics choose this machine for their own places is not nostalgia. It is the specific knowledge that when it develops a fault at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night before a week of work, the diagnosis will take 20 minutes and the repair will take an afternoon, with parts already in the workshop. In 4th place, the John Deere 4040 brings a different pedigree to the same argument. Built at John Deere's Waterloo, Iowa facility from 1978 to 1982, the 4040 is powered by a 6-cylinder John Deere diesel, producing approximately 110 horsepower. A substantial machine by the standards of this countdown, and one that was considered a high-capability broadacre tractor when new. It remains one by the standards of the properties where independent mechanics are using it today. The appeal of the 4040 to an experienced mechanic is specific. The Sound Guard cab, introduced on this generation of John Deere machines, is robust and well-designed by the standards of its era. The engine is a naturally aspirated, mechanically injected six-cylinder with a documented longevity record in independent workshop discussions on Green Tractor Talk and Tractor by Net that routinely places major overhauls at 5,000 to 6,000 hours on well-maintained examples. And the machine predates the software lock architecture that defines John Deere's current service relationship with its customers. A mechanic who buys a 4040 owns a machine they can fully diagnose and repair without any manufacturer permission, using tools that every competent workshop already carries. Current listing prices on Farm Tender sit between 14,000 and 24,000 Australian dollars for running examples with legitimate hour readings. John Deere Australia maintains parts availability for this model generation through its dealer network, and the aftermarket supply chain through suppliers including SpareX AU covers the most commonly replaced engine and hydraulic components. Known weak points are the hydraulic pump coupling, which can develop wear at around 3,000 hours and costs approximately 260 Australian dollars to rebuild through a John Deere dealer or independent workshop, and the front axle kingpin set, which benefits from inspection at around 2,000 to 2,500 hours on machines used for cultivation, with replacement costing approximately 240 Australian dollars. Fuel consumption under moderate broadacre load runs at approximately 9 to 10 liters per hour. Routine service every 250 hours costs approximately 140 to 160 Australian dollars through an independent workshop. The 4040 represents what an independent mechanic values most in a broadacre machine: proven longevity, complete mechanical transparency, and a parts pathway that does not require a factory relationship to access. With 3 machines still to come, the pattern emerging from this list is consistent: pre-electronic, mechanically injected, known failure modes. Coming to third place, the John Deere 4240 is the step up within the same generation, a machine that shares the 4040's fundamental architecture in a naturally aspirated configuration, producing approximately 130 to 140 horsepower. The 4240 was built at Waterloo from 1978 to 1982, alongside the 4040, and uses the same sound guard cab and the same mechanical injection system in a larger displacement iteration. Independent repair forum discussions, specifically on Green Tractor Talk and yesterday's tractors, note the 4240 as a machine that experienced mechanics regard as the most capable of this generation's available options in the Australian broadacre context, combining the naturally aspirated engine's longevity reputation with the higher output of the turbo specification without introducing the electronic management complexity of later generations. Current listing prices on Farm Tender sit between 16,000 and 26,000 Australian dollars for sound examples. Parts support mirrors the 4040 through John Deere Australia and independent aftermarket suppliers. Known weak points, specific to the larger engine specification, include the main oil supply line, which can develop scaling in the feed passage at around 3,000 hours if oil change intervals have been inconsistently maintained, leading to main bearing failure at a repair cost of approximately 900 to 1,100 Australian dollars through a turbocharger specialist. The fuel injection pump on the turbocharged specification also benefits from overhaul at around 3,000 to 3,500 hours at a cost of approximately 540 Australian dollars. Fuel consumption under broadacre load runs at approximately 10 to 11 liters per hour. Routine service every 250 hours costs approximately 140 to 160 Australian dollars through an independent workshop. For a mechanic who wants the most capable machine in this generation's John Deere range on their own place, the 4240 is the answer that independent forum discussions consistently arrive at. In second place, the Fiat 7090 is a machine that requires a different kind of explanation in the Australian context. because it is not a name that appears regularly on dealer forecourts or in mainstream rural media discussions. The Fiat 7090 is an Italian-built utility tractor in the 70 horsepower range, produced during Fiat's agricultural equipment era in the 1980s and sold in Australia through the Fiat Tractor Distribution Network before Fiat's agricultural operations were reorganized through the CNH structure. Its presence on a list of mechanic-endorsed machines reflects a specific community of knowledge that is built up around Italian agricultural equipment in Australia, a community that is smaller than the equivalent community around British and American machines, but considerably more passionate about what they own. Current listing prices on Farm Tender for Fiat 7090 examples in working order sit between $7,000 and $13,000 Australian dollars. Part support runs through Bearco for engine and hydraulic components, and the Fiat agricultural engine family, which shares design philosophy with components that continued through the New Holland platform, is well enough documented in independent workshop literature that an experienced mechanic rarely encounters a fault they cannot source a resolution for through established channels. Known weak points include the rear axle oil seal, which can develop leaks at around 2,000 to 2,500 hours. Repair cost, approximately 190 to 220 Australian dollars through an independent workshop. And the clutch pressure plate, which benefits from inspection at around 2,500 to 3,000 hours, with replacement costing approximately 310 Australian dollars. Fuel consumption under moderate load runs at approximately 5 to 6 liters per hour. Routine service every 250 hours costs approximately 120 to 135 Australian dollars. For a mechanic who has worked on these machines in the field, the Fiat 7090 represents the Italian tradition of building agricultural equipment with accessible service architecture and a tolerance for hard use that its modest trading price does not communicate on the listing page. And finally, in first place, and the machine that appears most consistently in discussions on farm tender community and independent repair forums when the question is specifically what an experienced mechanic would put on their own place. The Fiat 640. Built in Italy in the 1970s and early 1980s and sold in Australia through the Fiat Agricultural Network, the 640 is a 60-horsepower four-cylinder diesel machine that mechanics describe in remarkably consistent terms. Simple, direct, honest, and predictable. Those are not words that mechanics use carelessly. They are the specific vocabulary of someone who has spent time diagnosing machines that are the opposite of all four. Current listing prices on Farm Tender sit between $6,000 and $11,000 Australian dollars for sound examples. Part support runs through Bearco and the broader European agricultural parts supply chain, with engine components well documented and consistently available through established independent suppliers. Known weak points are the front wheel bearing set, which typically requires attention at around 2,000 to 2,500 hours at a cost of approximately 180 Australian dollars, and the hydraulic lift valve spool, which can develop scoring at around 3,000 hours in machines that have not had regular hydraulic fluid changes, with a reseal costing approximately 160 to 200 Australian dollars depending on the degree of wear. Fuel consumption under moderate load runs at approximately 4 to 4.5 liters per hour. Routine service every 250 hours costs approximately 115 to 125 Australian dollars through an independent workshop. The Fiat 640 is not a machine with a loud reputation in the Australian tractor market. It is a machine with a quiet one, the kind that circulates in workshop conversations and forum recommendations rather than on dealer forecourts or in agricultural magazine spreads. That is precisely the form of reputation that matters most when the question is what a mechanic trusts with their own money. Across all 5 tractors examined here, one truth stands out. The machines that experienced mechanics choose for their own places are not the machines that win the most floor space at field days. They are the machines that can be diagnosed without a laptop, repaired without a factory permission code, and serviced with parts that arrive before the weekend is over. Badge recognition at the produce store has almost nothing to do with how a machine performs in the paddock over 5,000 hours. But the mechanic who has seen both sides of that equation knows exactly which one matters. If this countdown changed the way you think about what genuine mechanical trustworthiness looks like in a tractor, hit subscribe, leave a like,